Hello, good morning, good afternoon. This is Jeff with DTools Software. I'll be the one giving you the tour of the DTools SI or System Integrator platform today. For anyone that's new to GoToWebinar, you'll notice that there's a little window pane there on the right-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to, you can collapse that by clicking on the red arrow button. That will move it over to the right. And since it is a webinar, we do have a lot of attendees in today's call. All microphones are muted by default. So if you do have any questions, we do ask that you post those questions in the questions area on the GoToWebinar tab over on the right-hand side. And we'll be certain to answer all of those questions before the end of the webinar today. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So the purpose of today's call is really an introduction to the DTools SI platform. And what we'd like to cover today is give you a quick high-level overview first. We'll start with what I'd like to call a 30,000-foot view of what the system can do. And then we'll dive into some details, and I'll actually show you a demonstration covering some of the topics that we go through the initial overview. And then, of course, at the end, we can talk about next steps. If you'd like to learn more information about the system and discuss further, we would be happy to do that. So a little bit about us as a company. We've been around actually now for just over 24 years, and we're actually specialized for the low voltage industry. So primarily we're working with AV and security integrators, both on the commercial and residential spaces. We've got well over 7,000 companies currently using the DTools platform. And we're also partnered with a lot of industry organizations, many more than you can see here on the screen. But these industry standards also come with drawing standards and standardized symbols. We have all those as a part of our product set, which we'll talk a bit more about here in just a moment. So as far as how we help and how the DTools SI platform helps integrators, I would say these tend to be the four most common issues or challenges that companies run into when they come to seek help when we talk to them initially. And so for some of you, you may recognize these as some pain points or challenges that you have. And of course, there's also usually a lot more than just the four. So if we had to boil it down to the four most common, I would say those are the ones. So what I'd like to do is launch up a quick little poll just to learn a little bit more about those folks that are here in the webinar today. So you're going to see a poll launch up on the screen. And this really just going to allow you to select any of the issues or challenges that you're running into day to day right now that you could certainly use some help on. So we'll give everybody here just a moment or two to respond to that. And I'll certainly share the results as well once we get responses and answers here from the group. So okay, we'll give it just a few more seconds here, and then we'll wrap up the polling here. Looks like we've got about half of the folks, a little over half of the folks that have responded, which is good. All right, excellent. So yeah, to keep things moving, I'll go ahead and close out that. Now, just the results, just if anybody that's curious, it's pretty evenly split. About a third of the group says all of the above, which tends to be a common response. And then I'd say the other third of the group is looking to get quotes turned around quickly. And then, looking for a fast way to generate quotes. And then also a third of the group says missing parts and labor on quotes is definitely a big challenge. Got a few people also too mentioned, managing the field team is also a problem. So good, that's quite helpful. So that really helps me give me an idea of where you're coming from. And I'm going to go ahead and just get the last poll out of the way. Just also pop up on your screen. Would love to know, what type of projects you're working on. Are you primarily focused on commercial, residential? Are you fairly evenly split and do both? I got one in there called "It's Complicated." So for anything that doesn't quite fit in that bucket, feel free to use that response. But yeah, so yeah, and like I say, that could be commercial AV, could be commercial security, could be residential AV, residential security, structured cabling. I mean, of course, MDUs, if you're doing like, multi-dwelling units, those kind of straddle the line between both of those. But yeah, so good. All right. So and yeah, for anybody that's curious, so and all the webinar attendees that we have today, looks like about 50% of those are on the commercial sector, 13 residential, about 20% of the group does both, and then about 20% of you said it's complicated. So, all right, fair enough. Good deal. Thanks everybody for participating. The reason I asked those things, one, I think it's good to know that you've got other people out there that share your pains and also are doing what you're doing. And two, it also helps me. So as we kind of go through this webinar and I show you a few things, since a little over half of the group, actually I'd say more like 60–70% of the group either does some commercial or all commercial. We'll show some samples that are commercial related, so that way it's relevant to you. So let's go ahead and slide over to the next one. So as far as what the D-Tools SI platform does, there's really 5 key areas that we focus on. So one of those is going to be project estimation and proposals. So really, I would say the sales side. And there's of course more to that than just putting together a proposal. You've got putting in your leads or opportunities and managing those as well. Now, drawings is another big part of what we do. We'll talk about how we integrate the bill of materials and drawings together onto a single platform. So a lot of really good, exciting stuff there on that. Now, project planning and installation. Once a project's approved, obviously we need to install it, manage it, track our cost, make sure we don't miss things. We'll talk about how that works. Service. Now, we're seeing a lot of companies now. I mean, of course, have been doing service for a while, but service plans or service agreements are becoming more and more of a standard or a thing. I think the security industry has really always had those to some level. On the AV side, it's becoming more and more of a I wouldn't say a requirement, but it is something that companies are really seeking to do. And a lot of times you may be in that boat where you're kind of doing it, you're kind of not, and you need a better way to sell those and manage those. And we'll talk about that a bit today. And then lastly, just the back office side of things. So ordering of equipment, managing the invoicing and accounting process, getting some business insights. So we'll talk about what we do there to help on that side. Now, as far as some advantages, to the system, I would say definitely one key advantage to the D-Tools platform is our product library. We've got an extensive database. We've got well over 2,000 brands represented inside of our library. And we've also got a really nice partnership with currently about 180 vendors. So with that partnership with those vendors, you can actually get dealer-specific pricing through our system. Now, right now, that's only available for US and also some of Canada's vendors. But with that integration, you can go in, you can put your account information with that vendor. They'll verify that you are a dealer, match you up to your price level with them. Once you do that, then every night we'll go out, look for price updates, pull those down and update those in the system, which nowadays with all the crazy price changes and adjustments going on, that's even more relevant than it ever has been. So that's a nice thing, and that continues to get bigger and better. I'd say we're adding around 2 to 5 new vendors to those price feeds every single month. So you'll only see that get bigger and better as you use the system longer. Now, there's a lot of other stuff tracking in the library, which I'll touch on here in just a bit. And we're also tracking things like industry standard install times too, which is interesting. It gives you a way of estimating and tracking labor per part, and we do give you some standard times to give you a ballpark figure to go off of if you're not used to doing that. Now, from an estimation standpoint, there's a lot of different ways that the numbers can be presented. And of course, over the years, we've certainly seen a lot of different ways people generate proposals or quotes. And you may, depending on the type of project, you may, do a real simple one-page document, or you may need to do a full-on detailed brochure-like proposal to the customer. And so we accommodate all of those options. We have the ability to, have simple, quick quotes, as we call them in the system, but also have really nice detailed proposals all broken down. The nice thing is it looks like it takes hours to do, and it's just a few clicks within our system. So I'll show you a few examples today, but keep in mind, all these documents that I show you, you can always customize them and you make them look any way that you want. And that is something too that we also provide through our professional services team. So during the onboarding process, as part of what we're doing is helping you get that set up and get that configured to your needs. Now, there's also some other benefits too on the labor side. Once again, a lot of different ways that companies tend to estimate labor. And one of the most common ways of doing that is having a labor time linked to the part. Now, the advantages of that, well, one obvious one is it does save time, so you don't have to, build a quote or a parts list and then have somebody review it or multiple people review it. You can have your standard times in there, and it just calculates automatically as you go. It also eliminates the potential mistake of forgetting labor. I think everybody is guilty of that. Forgetting to account for certain labor things. And so this will help build it in there and also account for other things that oftentimes don't get calculated at all or miscalculated, which is things like designer engineering time, programming time, management time or project management time. That can all be baked into your rates if you want. Now, some other features that we have that really help with estimation is a thing called accessories. So this will allow you to get a little pop-up or reminder whenever you sell a device. So that way you can say, hey, I'm putting a TV or display in. So here's your mount options, here's your cable options. So you can choose those and put those in there if you want. And that saves time, but also, once again, avoids mistakes. We can also present upgrade and downgrade options, which is also another thing that, if you're having to do 2 or 3 different quotes to present different options to the customer, this allows you to just do it on a single document. So you can show the different price differences for different options, which is nice. And also all of our documentation can be shared online, completely paperless. So the customer can review the documents, they can e-sign them. And from a sales perspective, what's really nice is we can notify you and alert you when they open the document, when they make a comment on it, accept or reject it, or if they e-sign it, of course, you'll get a copy of that. But you do stay in the loop, so that way you know what's going on the client end, and of course you can confirm that they got it too, which is nice. Now, from a drawing perspective, this is another big thing that sets the dTools platform apart from other estimating tools is our deep integration with AutoCAD and Visio. So with this integration, you can actually drag and drop from an existing bill of materials or equipment list that you created, or you can actually start with the drawing first. So this does give you that design first option where you can bring a floor plan in, start dragging and dropping items onto that plan or that drawing. And as items are landing on the drawing, it's actually creating your bill of materials, which is going to add up your equipment, your labor, your tax, everything as you go. So it does bridge the gap between the two. For most companies, you're creating a parts list or a quote over here, and then you're doing a drawing in another place, and you always have that constant battle of making sure they match. So with our system, it completely eliminates that problem. Whatever's on the drawing has to be in the bill of materials. And if you make any changes, what's nice is you make a change in one place, all your drawings, all your documentation is all tied together. So that's a big deal on the estimating side. It's also just sometimes actually even bigger deal in the post-sale process when you've got change orders and revisions going on. That's where, oftentimes things slip through the cracks, where we forget to charge the customer for something that they're responsible for in tracking approvals and things like that. So this really tightens that up and saves a lot of time, avoids mistakes there. So we'll talk about how this integrates. And from a drawing perspective, you'll see a few examples here on the screen. Of course, floor plans, we can do wiring diagrams with the IOs, we can do elevations and rack drawings, and of course, simple one-line drawings too, utilizing the images there. Now, project planning installation. So once a job has been approved, we have the ability to create a Gantt chart, so you can get a quick project plan put together. And from that project plan, we can break it down very quickly for you by phase, of the job, and then you can even do it by location system if you want to. And this speeds things up from a planning perspective. And then once those are set up, we can then convert that into tasks. So we can send that out to the field team, and then with the mobile tool that we have, the technicians can see all the information about the site. They can track their time via built-in timer, or they can do a timesheet entry in the system there. They can also check off the items that they've completed or installed right from the project that was sold. And then they also have the ability to add other information, so things like serial numbers, IP, and MAC addresses, more important than ever to track and log those for remote troubleshooting, for service, for warranty work. So you have all that there in one spot. And this also gives the field team the capability of documenting field changes. So naturally, things are going to change. They're going to have to go run to the store, grab something, or customer may request something, different or a change. So you can document that all out in the field, and that all updates back in the system, alerts the project manager, keeps everybody on the same page. So photos and videos can also be uploaded. We're also saving the install team a lot of time by having the wire schedules and wire checklists put together. Actually, that's usually done by somebody else than the install team, but you don't have to go and build a wire pull sheet or a wire schedule or anything like that. That's all automated in the system, along with all of your wire labels. And we do work with a lot of different common labeling machines out there for that side of things. Now, service, this is once again becoming more and more popular. So we do have the ability to set up and manage service agreements in the system. So you can sell just a standalone service plan in our software, or you can, of course, attach or have one associated to a job or project that you're doing. Now, from a service standpoint, we can handle service requests. We have a thing called service orders. So, customer calls up or sends an email about an issue. We can go in, we can create that service order. We can put of course, a description of the issue. We can link it to a service agreement if we're logging it against that. And then you can also set it up, dispatch it out. Technician in the field can pull it up. They can document what the problem was, if we need to order equipment. All ties back here into this ecosystem. So this does loop in the service side of the business along with everything else we've talked about. And then lastly, just really the back office side of things, ordering of equipment. We've got a very fast way of doing that with our bulk PO creation that we've got in the system. And we do integrate with a lot of other third-party systems. The big thing that we don't do is the accounting and financial side of things. But what we do instead is integrate with other industry standard platforms. So the system ties in with programs like QuickBooks. We also have integrated to other systems too, like NetSuite, Salesforce. There's over 20 integrations out there that we can link and plug into via our API. And if there is a system that you're using that we haven't integrated to, that's no big deal. With our API, we can push and pull data, so it's always an option. And then lastly is really just business analytics. So getting some insight into what's happening. We can generate some real-time job cost reports here inside the system. And yeah, so that's a lot of different options there that we can do on that. So that's really what we're looking at there. Now, one thing I'll point out as far as the system goes, we've really dedicated a lot of time and invested a lot into the training and implementation side of things. So with this, you can, when you decide to move forward with the system, if you're not using it already, we have a dedicated staff that's done this for years. We've done thousands of implementations, and we've got a lot of good personalized online training and in-person training options that we can do to help you make sure you succeed with the system. So let's go ahead and hop on into the overview of the software itself. So as we kind of talked about so far, there's a lot that the platform can do. So I'll kind of preface that by saying we won't be able to get through everything in full detail today. So if you do have some additional questions after the webinar today, because this is really designed to be more of an introduction to the system, we do have weekly webinars that we teach every Tuesday and Thursday on specific topics. And of course, we can also do one-on-one sessions with you as well if you'd like to learn more about the system and answer some, go through some specific topics that you'd like. So I'm going to start with the catalog. So, or actually, I'll say our library first is probably a good place to start. So we pulled this up. And so with this, we can pull up the library. We see all of the brands here on the left-hand side. So you can go and choose to download from any of the brands or manufacturers that you tend to work with. So we've got that full list there on the left. Tons of updates happening in here. As you can see, our average has been between 15 to 17,000 products a week right now, as far as what we're adding and updating inside the library. And then we've got the ability to do price feeds here. So with this, you can go ahead and get connected. Now we've got 178 vendors right now that are available for price feeds. We've also got some distributors in there as well. So as I mentioned earlier, you just go click on a vendor, hit connect, put your account information in. Once they verify you and confirm you, then you're good to go. Every night we can pull down price updates, sync those into the system for you on that. So this is a huge resource that most platforms don't have. So you've got, access to the largest low voltage database out there, and you can go, this helps with initial setup, but just from a maintenance standpoint, cuts down on a lot of overhead, a lot of time. Constantly looking up parts, looking up pricing. We can help save a good bit of time with this. Now, once you download the items, those are going to land into what's called your catalog. So that's going to be your company's database. And that's going to consist of products. That's going to consist of labor items, and we'll also have packages in here. So, and packages are basically pre-built systems or assemblies. So another great way to save time is you build one system, save it, and then you can reuse it over and over again on future projects. So let's go up here and we'll go hop in, and I'm going to go through just taking you through what creating a project looks like here in the system. Create a quick little sample here today. Slide it over to the right screen. All right, perfect. So what we're going to do is taking you through setting up a project. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we can put in on a project, and not all of, really most of this stuff isn't a requirement to get started with building a parts list. But I'm going to just, touch on some of the highlights just so you know it's there, whether or not you need to put it in up front or whether you want to do it later. So client name, let's go ahead and choose one. So I'm just going to select a name from the list. We'll just say Acme Insurance Company. Then I'll call this October webinar. Then we can set here what our status or stage is. So we can select that. And then we can really do anything else we want here. We can select our different roles if we want to. We can set estimated and of course actual close dates will happen. This will all tie into some of the forecasting stuff that we have. Same thing with project dates. And then if you're doing any projects outside of your native country, we also do support multi-currency in here. Then you've got the ability to add other contacts. So if you've got other trades like a GC, electrician, any of those people that you're working with, add them in there if you want to. Then you've got your address details, you've got taxes. For those in US and Canada, we do also have a live link with a service called Avalara for doing tax lookups. So based on the address and zip code, we can pull up the current tax rate and apply that to the job for you. Slide over that one. We don't need that one yet. We got the scope of work. So scope of work, what we can do is type in here, copy and paste in here. We can also utilize what are called snippets. So snippets allow you to go through the list here and really choose, preset templates you've done before. So let's go through and select a few different options here. Gotcha. So we'll drop it in. That gets plugged in. And then if you need to make any edits or adjustments to it here, you can certainly do that. Then we've also got the ability, jumped over one there. You got the ability to add in locations there. So you can also add locations in. So this is where you can add things like buildings, floors, rooms, even rack names to the job if you want to. So we'll go ahead and throw some of these in here. So we'll say entry, hallway, go through the list here, choose them in there. All right, so let's go ahead and hit add. Perfect. Then once we've got those in there, you can always go back, it's not set in stone. We can always go and add more locations later on. We've got payment terms or payment schedules that we can set up or adjust here. And then lastly is custom fields. So if there's anything else you want to track, like Wi-Fi password, building code, you've got a good place to store it and set it in here. So we'll go ahead and hit save on that. That's going to set up our project, and we can now start adding equipment to it. Now there's two ways to add equipment to a project. I kind of mentioned these earlier. You can start with more of a list format first, so just drag and drop, build your list of parts. Then later you can drag and drop those items into a drawing, or you have the option of starting with the drawing first, and that will create your list based off what you put on the drawing page. Now, like I said, there's really no right or wrong way of doing it. We found that companies tend to do more drawings earlier on than they've done before, just because they can do them both at the same time with our system. But that isn't a requirement. You can just simply build a quote or estimate and never touch a drawing for a project if you want to. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So what I'm going to do is just show you how products get added. So on the left-hand side, we've got the ability to see all of the parts or products that are in your catalog here. So go ahead and slide that out. And then what I'm going to do is do a quick search. Now, if you know the part number or part of the model number, you can just type it in here. This will find the results here for you. And then if you want to drag and drop it and put it into a location, you can certainly do that. So I'll just say, I'll put this into my equipment room over here. So let's go drag and drop it in. Let go, and then it's going to ask if I want to include some accessories. So I've got some programming and event panel that's going to go in. So we'll go ahead and add those in there with it. And that now adds into the job. So now let's say I want to go and find some additional items here. Now, if you don't know the part number, the good thing about the search is it is pretty forgiving. You can type in, a keyword like speaker, and you could type in a brand name if you want to, or a type. This will narrow down the results for you. So you just go find the one that you want here. And then if you want more than one, you can always adjust your quantity here. And if this item is going to be going in multiple locations, you can save yourself a few steps just by selecting all of those different areas here from the list. So you can select all your rooms. Once again, drag and drop them in. You'll get prompts if there's anything else to consider with it. And I've got, in this case, a cable run and also a back box. So go ahead and toss those in there. Now, anytime you're adding bulk wire, so any cable that's cut to length, we do have a little pop-up that comes up where you can adjust that wire length if you want to. You can always change that later if you like. You can also assign a head into that cable too. That's, once again, not a requirement, but I'll just say it's coming from rack 1. All right, so go ahead and drop it in. So that kind of gives you an idea of how a project's built from a list perspective. You just go search for your item, drag and drop it in, and you start getting your numbers adding up here. Now you can go even faster if you utilize packages. So if you may have some pre-built, assemblies or setups that you've done before, you can always drag and drop those in. You can always modify them, of course, too, after you've added them into the project. And so this is giving us some numbers, so we can see we're just under 10,000 so far, and we've got about 15 hours of labor in this project up to this point. So I'm not going to add anything else just yet. What I'm going to do next is we'll go over to the drawing side, and I'll show you how you can add items to the drawing that are new, and of course add stuff that we've put in here already to the drawing as well. So let's go ahead and hit save on that. Now, of course, I could run a proposal or quote from this if I want to, but like I said, we'll come back to this in just a minute, and I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go ahead and close this. Now, the project that we've set up, down below is where we're going to see our files for it. And right now, we don't have any files, which is fine. So we're going to go in and create a drawing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we can do Visio and we can do AutoCAD drawings. So I'm going to start with a Visio drawing here, and I'll just choose one of my templates here. And we give you some standardized templates already in there. There's also going to be what's called a title frame set up on all the drawing pages for you. It's going to pull in your company logo, and it's going to pull in all of the project data. So the client name, project name, of course, your company details. All that populates on each page along with the page number, so you don't have to do any of that manually. Now, for anybody that is using or has been using Visio or AutoCAD, this is working natively in both drawing tools. So when you launch this up, if you're used to using Visio or AutoCAD, not a lot's changed from an interface standpoint, since it is working just in that native environment. But you'll notice that there is a details menu on the left where you've got access to your product database, also your shape or block libraries. Those would all be there for you. Now, one thing to note when you are building drawings in the system, there are 4 different types of drawings, and you're going to have tabs down here at the bottom that represent those. So the tabs, you've got line, elevation, plan, and schematic. So each one of those pages actually represents a different view of the same product. So basically every item in our database has 4 different Visio shapes assigned to it, and also has 4 AutoCAD blocks assigned to it. So that way you can do really any of the drawings types that you need and just drag and drop the items out, and that's all you have to do. So how it would work, if I go over here to my project editor, now this is going to be bringing up that window that we just looked at earlier. And this is a floating window by design. So if you are doing drawings, most people, what they do is, have a full screen of their equipment list on one monitor and then have the drawing on the other. So you can do that. And so let's say I just want to maybe start by adding some items to this drawing based off what we've built so far. So I'm going to go over here to the left. I'm going to select, let's go grab a speaker, let's go grab a cable and an amp, and we're going to go ahead and drag and drop that out. So when we do that, that brings out our items here. We can now connect these and snap these up where we want them to go. And then based on that, we now have a very simple 1-line drawing here that we can do. So, and now once you've built this, this is, like I said, really, I would say the most basic of the drawings that we do, but it is a good graphical layout. So it is a good one for like a pre-sales or a customer to check out. So you've got that there as an option. Now that's your line diagram. Now the more detailed version of this would be what we call the schematic. So this is going to, if I drag those same items out here again, it's going to bring them out again on the page from the bill of materials, but you're now going to see a different view of this, one that now shows the IOs on the part. So, and it's really easy. You just take this, snap it, connect it where you want it to go. And of course, I'm doing a speaker and an amp, but if you're, doing security, and this is a camera system, same concept, you may be grabbing that camera and hooking it up to a switch or DVR. So, no matter what the system is, concept's the same. Now, there's a lot of stuff happening here in the background. So one is, all of your cables are getting numbers. So all those numbers also have labels associated to them. All of your equipment also gets numbers on them too. So every device will get a unique number. You can choose how those are formatted in the settings if you want. And also the color of the cables, that's also a preference thing. You can set, color coding based on the kind of cable, and it'll do it for you. And this is also creating a detailed wire schedule too for us in the background. There's a lot of tricks we have in here. I mean, you can even, right click and say, hey, just show me the IOs that we're using. So you can kind of quickly clean up the drawing. And you can also, of course, turn different stuff off. So I could say, hey, I want to hide my signals. I want to hide the terminals. Just show me the labels. So you can clean it up if you want to. So that's your schematic drawing there that you can do. Then you've got, of course, plan view, probably one of the more common drawings to do. This is where you bring a plan in or floor plan in to do overlays. Now, when it comes to doing these kinds of drawings, you can bring in PDF, probably being the most common these days. We have a PDF conversion tool that we've built for Visio. So this will take the PDF, we'll convert it. You can set your scaling and then drop it in. Then you can just start laying your stuff on top of it. And since it is a scaled drawing, it will actually do wire distance measurements too. So you can actually draw out wire paths and get a pretty accurate estimate for how much cable you're going to need for the job. So that's all there. And of course, we also, as mentioned, can drop in CAD drawings too. So I'm going to go grab one here and show you how this works. Just going to touch on that and hit OK. All right, so we've got our plan. And then once again, just taking, what we've put into this project already, I can go grab, a speaker, drag and drop it out, put it on the plan, lay it where we want it to go. So we've got that. And as we're doing that, once again, it's keeping track of what we're doing on the drawing side. So every item that lands on these drawing pages, it puts a blue dot on there. So you have a quick reference of what you put on there and what you haven't. Now, the good thing about that too is it's not going to let you add the same item twice. So I can't put that same speaker on this drawing again because, otherwise I'm going to get confused. I'm going to see, I'm going to count more speakers than we're actually charging for. So our system won't let you do that. If it's on the drawing, it's got to be accounted for in the bill of materials. So it's all there. And if you're ever curious, you can always just double click on an item. If I just click on that icon here, this will bring up that part here. So I can actually see the item, I can see the description, I can see the price, information on the item, how much labor time it's going to take, all my specifications, my inputs and outputs, everything is all there as a part of the library built in. So got that there. Now, last drawing type, just going to touch on, just so we can round that out and show you that option. We'll come over here and now you can build an elevation or rack drawing with this. We didn't put a rack into our quote or estimate so far, so let me show you how you can do that without having to leave what you're doing here. And this is how you would build a drawing and an estimate at the same time. So what you do, just go select your location, just like we did before. You can find a location or multiple locations. You come over here and find the product in your database. So we'll go find a rack here. You select it, and then you just drag and drop it out. All right, so that now brings it out onto the drawing. Now that rack that I've just brought out has now also landed in our equipment list. So now the price has gone up. Before we were just under $10,000. Now we're at 11.7, and our labor has also gone up too. And now I'm just going to go grab this item to throw in there, and I can drag and drop it out, snap it, connect it where I want it to go. So on the elevation drawings here, everything is always going to be to scale. This is the reason we track the dimensions. So, I mean, yeah, it is going to be a nice looking, drawing or graphic that it puts together, but it is an engineering tool also. So we're actually making sure we're going to have enough room in this rack and make sure everything's going to fit. We can even flip this to the side and see the depths on it, make sure we don't have stuff hanging out of the back of the rack. So like I said, it does do a lot of things. It is a nice presentation, but it is also covering yourself to make sure you're not ordering things that you either don't need or won't work for that project. So that's just a little introduction there to the drawing side. There is a lot to cover on the drawings. I mean, we have hour-long training sessions just on the drawing side of things. But did want to show you that because that is a big, usually a big question people have is how that part works and what it looks like. Now, all of this was done in Visio today. You can also do all of these same drawings in AutoCAD as well. And once again, working natively in that environment. Now, pulling up that parts list that we have shows me what we've built so far today. If I want to generate a report to give to the customer now, I can come up here to reports. And we've got different report templates. So I'm going to show you a real basic one that comes with the system out of the box. So you just go in there and say, all right, let's do a proposal with images and let's show it to them broken down by location. Now you can see there's also options to do it by system, also by phase. So there's different ways of presenting the numbers here. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this up. So we've got a cover sheet. And of course, the colors and themes here that you see, you can always modify those in the built-in report design tool that we have. The image on the front, of course, too, you can set that per project for that particular customer. Scroll down, then you've got your different locations here, so we can see the different items that we've got in each location. If you want to include the pictures in there, you can. You can also show or hide model numbers, which I'm not showing model numbers right now. And also line item pricing also could be turned on and off as needed. So scroll down through here, and then you got your summary here at the bottom based on that. So that's just one option. I'll show you another way of presenting this, and this one would be a custom report. So this is one that we've done here before, so you kind of get an idea of what this would look like if you were to play around with the custom report designer or have us help you with that. So we'll pull this up. Now this is actually pulling together about 6 or 7 different documents into a single document. So same project, but we got a cover sheet. Then we've got an introduction letter that goes to the customer with their name and information there. Scope of work, so that's all broken down there. Then we've got equipment by room. Now this is just summarizing the different locations and the totals for each location based off what we built. And of course down below we can show them. And you get down here, then you've got your systems. Once again, that's all broken down there too. You got your summary. You can include drawings if you want to. Haven't done that yet. Got our payment terms. We've also got a place where you can e-sign the document. This whole page, I mean, this is something that you go in and customize, put your own terms and conditions in there for getting this set up. And of course, service plan options, and then we've got about the company. So it's really just whatever you want it to be and look like. It's all fully customizable, so you can set this up, configure it, have different templates depending on the type of customer that you're working with. And all you got to do from here is just PDF it, or email it, or send it through our online portal, all from here. So that's on the project build side of things. So what we'll do is just kind of touch on a few other areas of the system before we wrap up today. And like I said, everything I'm showing you today, we go much more detail in some of the training webinars and personalized trainings too that we offer. So now that we've got a project, now typically what would happen is I would mark this approved. That's going to lock that project down. And what's really nice about that is at that point, once a project gets approved, if we go and add or remove anything from that project, it's automatically going to track change orders. So we'll be able to track what you've added, removed, or swapped. And we're going to ask you, is this an internal change or is this a client requested change? So we can keep track of who's responsible for it and the approvals, and also update the numbers as that happens. Now from here, just kind of show you a quick example of some of the project management tools. We can create a Gantt chart based off what we've done today so far. Pull this up, and that's as easy as going in and saying, all right, let's go pull everything from our project. And I'm just going to do a breakdown by phase. And if you want to, you could do it by system and also by location if you want. But since this is small, I'll keep it simple. So we've got items in here right there for that. So we'll go ahead and hit next. We've got to select some phases here. So we'll go ahead and choose a couple of them. Hit next, and then click finish. So this puts items here into our project. And then we can now, oops, let me know I'm trying to put something on the schedule on a non-working day. You can then lay these things out, put these items where you want them to go. And what we're doing is we're pulling the estimated time for these items in, and then later as you're using our mobile tools, we can track the actual times, and you can get some real-time job costing to see how you're performing, how you're doing on that job as you go. So from the mobile side, I'm just going to show you a little preview of what the technician sees out in the field. I'll pull that up here in a browser, show you what that looks like. Get rid of all these tabs here, make it a little easier to see. All right, so I'm going to log in. Okay, and then this is what the technician sees. So you've got a mobile dashboard here. Let me change my, let's see, probably do the last 60 days so we can see some data there. So you can see what's going on, what's been scheduled in your dashboard. You got a calendar, so you can take a look at what's on the schedule. And then you've also got tasks. So this shows you any task that you're working on. You just get rid of that filter there for a second. So I can click into any of these. This shows me who the customer is, where it's at. I can track my time up here, which you can see I started that job 72 hours ago and didn't hit stop, but you can always stop it and correct it if you need to. Easy to do. Yeah, I'm going to cancel that for now. Then you also have got your items here. This is going to show you all of the items that you built and sold on their project. And these items can be checked off as you complete them. I'll go in here, maybe do, let's go into, that one was already, that location's already done. Let's go to a different one. So you just go in, you can mark items as installed. And you can also put in other stuff too, IP, MAC addresses, serial numbers. Those can be logged in from the field if you want, and that updates your as-builts back in the system. Site items is where you can add additional product or labor that you had to use on site. And so what's going to happen, somebody back at the office would then, review that and decide, okay, is this a customer change that they need to pay for, or is this a internal change or charge that we're going to, add to the job? You've got a place for images. You can take photos with notes. You can run through checklists. So you can go through this list and check off items here. And this is also a good feature for the service side. So if you're going out to do a routine maintenance visit, you can go out there and run through your checklist and document who did it. And they can also put any notes on there as well. And you got your approval tab. So this is where you can go through and sign off on the job once it's complete, or get a sign off if needed. And then all of your time entries would land here in the timesheet area. And those time entries can also be put in manually. You can just punch in a number of hours, or you can do a check-in, check-out based on a certain date and time. So a lot of stuff here on the mobile side. Really, it's a simple interface for technicians to do everything they need to do while they're out on site. And then project managers or anybody overseeing the job is getting all their updates real time and all stored back here inside the system with that. So a little bit on the mobile side. Now there's a full calendar interface within the platform as well. So inside the system, you've got a calendar that you can access, and you can look at multiple people's schedules. You can also run, as I mentioned earlier, things like job cost reports to see your actual versus estimated time on how things are going on both equipment and the labor side. And then we also have the ability in here to track service requests and manage service agreements, and also bulk create and issue POs out of the system as well. So quite a bit of stuff. And then I think, the only other area we didn't really touch on is just the business analytics area. So that just gives you a place to set up, and put really any kind of graphs or dashboards for things that you want to track. And you can put these on your home screen. Each person on the team can have up to 6 dashboards that they can reference and look at. That could be, pipeline information you can take a look at, and it could be text-based stuff. Just depends on how you want to look at the data. It's all there and easy to set up there on the home screen. So I know we've got about 10 minutes left, so I always like to leave some time for Q&A. So what we'll do now is open it up for any questions that you may have. As a reminder, if you have any questions, there is a questions menu in the GoToWebinar window. So if you have that, collapsed off to the side, just click on that red arrow button. That'll bring it back out. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of content or a lot that the software does. So in this intro webinar, we don't get into super detail on every topic. We just can't do it in an hour. But if you would like to, if you'd like to learn more or do a deeper dive, please reach out to us. We can always do those one-on-one sessions with you and go deeper. All right, so we're going to go ahead and run through some of the questions here as they're popping up. So feel free to post those in there. I promise I'll get through all of the questions if you post them in there. So let's see here. First question. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get that question to open up. There we go. All right. So how will T-Sheets integrate for the hours budget versus actual? Can you link T-Sheets to both QuickBooks and DTools? Yes. So T-Sheets, we do have an integration to that. It's actually a relatively new thing we launched back in August. And so T-Sheets is now called the QuickBooks Time. And so that is integrated or can be integrated with QuickBooks. And right now, the way that integration works is you do your time entries or time logs from T-Sheets or QuickBooks Time, and that does land, it can be pushed to the dTools SI side of things. So if you want to use our job cost reporting, all of that can be done through there. But yep, we do support that integration. That can certainly be done. So one question was, does the mobile install link to any HR applications for payroll? We do have the integration for pushing the actual hours to a few different ERP systems. I don't remember exactly which ones do, which ones don't for the payroll side. So that might be something we need to circle back with you on to confirm. I can tell you that all the actual hours that get logged in here can be exported out to an Excel spreadsheet or PDF file. So most of the times people will push those out to a spreadsheet, and you may be able to either import those into your payroll system right from the spreadsheet. And we can also create a custom export file. So if we need to have it export out in a certain format, a certain layout, that can also be done by our professional services team. So we can do that. So, between that export import option, we should be able to eliminate the double entry. Worst case, you can always go in there and pull up a pay period, and somebody could run through each person and enter the hours there. But yeah, so from an integration standpoint, we'll have to circle back with you on the platforms that it'll tie to on that. Are most of the drop-down choices pre-populated by dTools? It's a good question. A lot of the there's a lot of drop-downs. We've got custom field drop-downs, which those will be something that you completely set up. Some of the drop-downs that you saw today, like that have like statuses and things in there, we do give you some samples to start with, but all of those drop-downs are configurable. Pretty much every drop-down list, with maybe a few exceptions, is going to be customizable. So you can go in there and edit them, but we do try to give you something to start off with, so it's not all completely blank. And part of our onboarding process is, sitting down with a consultant on our team who has done this for years and knows the business and the industry well, and they can help, coach you and guide you on getting some of those set up for that. Let's see here, going through some questions. On the product catalog, on the Vendor Connect side, that's where you can do, dealer costs. Will it download all vendors available products into your library, or only update pricing you already have entered in there? No, it actually will do everything that that vendor has. It'll do price. So kind of back up, it'll only do price updates for the items that you've got in your catalog. So if you've downloaded, let's say 2,000 of 3,200 products the vendor has, the price updates will sync to all the products that you've downloaded. So not the full 3,200, but in that case, the 2,000 that you've downloaded. So that will happen. And you can choose the frequency on those updates. It can be daily, weekly, or monthly, or it could be a manual push, which even if you've got it set for, like, let's say weekly, you can always do a manual, button push to look for updates at any point if you want to. So that sync will happen as long as you got that vendor set. Then that's the key, because there are going to be some products you can buy direct and some that you can buy also through distribution. So we need to know, are you buying that through ADI, or are you buying it direct through the manufacturer? So you will, as part of the settings, is setting your preferred vendors on each manufacturer. But once you do that, then yeah, we can pull down those prices for you on that. So let's see, it's good questions. Let's see here, making sure I've got through all of them. Then we got a question on pricing. So pricing of the system, it does vary depending on really the number of users and, there are any integrations needed, things like that. So that's probably, it is a subscription-based platform, as far as the system goes, a monthly or annual fee. But like I said, best to probably have a one-on-one conversation with you on that, just to understand what your specific needs are, and get you connected with the right folks, and also to make sure that this is the right product for you. We do offer two product lines. We have dTools SI, which is the one that we went through today, and then we have DTools Cloud, which is a browser-based tool, and it's it's got, both have their pros and cons. So that's something we can also talk with you too to see what's the right product for you. So let's see here. I think we were winding down on questions. So I'll do one last call here for questions before we wrap up. Let's see, this webinar should be recorded as well. It usually records it by default. Yep, it is recorded. So you should get an email with that recording automatically. So you can share that with anybody if you need to. And if you don't get a copy of it via email, just reach out to us. We can get that over to you as well. All right, perfect. Don't see any other questions. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here a couple minutes early. Appreciate everybody coming out today, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And yeah, have a great day, and let's keep moving forward. All right, take care.